Click here.
Eat like a king who's on a budget. 3 tasty options, fries, drink, and nuggets. All for $5. Wait, that can't be right. Just confirm that that's the real price. BK, have it your way.
What is good, Brainiacs? It is NFL Week 7. Myself, Gabriel, and Charles are here today to discuss everything there is to know fantasy football Week 7. And we got a really good slate of games. We also have some stuff to discuss from the Thursday night football game. That was a really good game of two 40-year-old quarterbacks going band for band. And we have the London game this morning where it's not very entertaining. You have a complete blowout, and the Jaguars look like one of the worst teams in the NFL. So how are you guys doing on this fine October Sunday?
Dude, I'm doing great. They just dropped another pass in this Jacksonville game, so that was pretty good timing, Kahan, right when you said that. They dropped a pass for a first down. This game is trash.
I had one of the more fun Thursday night football experiences, I would say, than we've had this year. I mean, two 40-year-old quarterbacks, like you said, was really fun to watch. I honestly, like, when I went to bed on Wednesday night before the game, I was like, are the Browns playing the Steelers like 2 weeks in a row? For some reason, I literally, because the conflation of Joe Flacco obviously getting traded to the Bengals and having the Browns just played the Steelers with Dylan Gabriel and Aaron Rodgers and these old guys, and like the Bengals and Browns both just like are sucky teams. I was like totally like for a second tricked myself out into thinking that they were replaying that garbage game of Steelers Browns. But this one was exciting because, you know, Ja'Marr Chase showed up. We are now confident that him and Joe Flacco are going to be an incredible fantasy football duo for the rest of the year. And so that's uplifting for the spirits of anyone who was picking first overall, who was looking pretty bleak, honestly, for a little while, because you might have had Burrow on your team too, and paired that with Ja'Marr Chase. And so that's a struggle right now, and you're trying to work yourself back, but it's looking good going forward. Are you guys feeling good about Ja'Marr Chase for the rest of the season?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think you have to feel pretty good about all the Bengals options in this game. We saw really good performance by T. Higgins. We saw a good performance from Chase Brown, who had 100 yards on the ground. We saw, obviously, Ja'Marr Chase, and even Noah Fant had a really good game as well. So I think that you can assume that now with Flacco under center and this team still being competitive here at 3-4, knowing that a Burrow return is looming in middle of December, I think that now that they can't really press the box because you have the threat of the receivers, I think this could be at least an average offense, which will bode well for these players.
Totally agree. And Flacco's done it before.
Is he like that?
Well, he did it in Cleveland. He did it in Indianapolis, like consistently when he was playing, their receivers were better. And at this point, it's just not a fluke. Like doing it with three different organizations within the last like 3 years clearly says that like Flacco knows how to do it. Not saying that he's like some elite quarterback that's going to win the Bengals every single game, but he is definitely good enough and understands NFL defenses well enough to like produce players who score points, and I think that's just the bottom line.
Yeah, he seems to not be going anywhere anytime soon. He always, when he's talking to the media, he's very much a proponent of the idea that he's not going to stop playing until he physically can't play anymore. And right now, when we watch football and he still can win a game against a stellar like Steelers defense and Mike Tomlin, like he's not going anywhere. Joe Flacco's here to stay for at least this year.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's definitely nice to see that they have some offensive flow after how poor they've looked the last few days. And I think, or not few days, few weeks, but
Jake Brown pants.
I was going to say they also have somewhat of a lighter schedule towards the back half end of the season with their week or with their matchups from weeks like 13 to 17. They play a couple bad defenses. So this could be a team where if you have these Bengals players and you can make it to the playoffs, they do have some favorable matchups down the line and could definitely be kind of sleepers that come in to those weeks where they really help you out, where they didn't give you that support during the regular season. So definitely, I think all good things with the Bengals and all positive moving forward. But let's talk about this Rams Jaguars game. I don't think that there's even too much to talk about on the Rams side. They've just been kind of throwing the ball consistently. Devontae Adams has 2 touchdowns. I don't think any of us here are surprised about it. We all know Devontae is a great player. We are on him all season. But let's talk about the Jaguars. And for me, it's just a little puzzling because I see so many plays get designed for players who are not good on this team. Like I see a 3rd down and 2, and you have Hunter and Brian Thomas off the field. And then on the next 4th, and you don't complete it. And then on 4th down, you throw a slant to Diami Brown. So I'm just like so confused why Jaguars are like misutilizing their players almost.
This is a concept that needs to be recognized like across the NFL, where for some reason certain coaches, I feel like, get inside their own heads to develop these plays in the hopes and like the idea that like, okay, we can use our best player as like a decoy because they're going to bring the majority of the defense like over there. And so let's scheme up this opportunity for this lesser player to get an opportunity because we think it'll create more like openness potentially. And I think that in those, it's exactly problematic in those scenarios that you're describing right now. And teams that aren't good in specifically like come the playoffs and stuff like that, they're not going to let that happen like you're talking about, where in these crucial moments, you're making the decision to forego an opportunity to give your best player the ball out of the idea that you might be able to scheme something up against this defense. Like that's stupid. That's stupid in the NFL. Use your best player for that play and figure out how you can keep the drives alive, figure out how you can put points on the board. That is how you're going to do it, especially when you're a struggling offense in specifically this Jaguars game today, where you're struggling all day. You only have 0 points. That should be screaming to you to just give your best player the ball, get Brian Thomas Jr. the ball, give Travis Hunter the ball in the screen game. Why not let him run that slant route? Because who knows what could happen when you get your best players the ball.
Yeah, I agree. It's about scheming, but scheming appropriately, right? Not using them as decoys, but like you said, finding a play to get Hunter open or Thomas open instead of like
they
you said,
have
using
them, right?
Diami Brown. What was that?
They have them, don't they? Those plays?
Of course. They have to. I mean,
it's just, it just seems like they're misutilizing them. And what we saw last year of a lot of the success with the offense was through Brian Thomas. And I talked about it last week. It's like you had a ton of screen passes where he took them for big plays. You had, little drag routes over the middle. And now he's really only getting put on intermediate routes for the most part, which is, I'm not going to say he struggles at them, but that's like his worst skill set out of his route running in terms of his short route running and his deep route running. So it's just a little puzzling. Liam Cohen obviously is a great offensive coach, so it is his first season. They're still getting into the swing of things. They're a 4-2 team, so not giving up by any means, but I will say it has looked a little concern for this offense. Let's talk about, or you have one more thing to say?
Well, I kind of want to talk about the Rams here for a second as we're watching this. So do you guys think that Puka will for sure be playing next week? Because I'd like to kind of talk about their situation if he's out another week, because it does seem like
on bye. I think they're on bye next week.
So
they said that they do expect him back in week 9.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it looks like Kobe Parkinson's getting more involved now. Tyler Higbee, the tight ends, and Stafford certainly locked on Devontae, but it doesn't work as well. It's certainly less efficient without Puka out there.
Oh, absolutely. But I mean, hey, they're still getting it done in London, where you never really know what's going to happen in a London game. We do have our first question that just came in. We got Cade Otton this week against the Detroit Lions or Travis Kelce against the Raiders. I'm going to go with Travis Kelce here. Travis Kelce always kills the Raiders, it feels like. Like he's had multiple games where he scores multiple touchdowns against them. And Mahomes is playing great football this year. You have Rashee Rice coming back, which could take some more attention off Kelce. And so I'm going to go with Kelce over Otton, where Otton just has not proven to be any type of reliable asset in fantasy this year.
Yeah, Otton hasn't done anything, and that's like I wouldn't say he was even high on Otton, but even like guys are injured, I just don't see Baker looking his way very often. So I'm gonna take Kelce as well.
I'm not just pushing back on this to push back on it, but because you can check my graphic this week of tight ends of the top 12, and I got Cade Otton ahead of Travis Kelce this week. I think that tight end specifically is we have to think about how many points are going to be put up in this game, who's going to be scoring a touchdown. Now, the Cade Otton situation there are interesting developments because it does look like Mike Evans is going to play and Egbuka still might play. Has there been an update on if he's going to be active or not this week?
No, but they said he has a chance of playing, like a real chance of playing is what
I
the
would say
notification said.
if Agbuka's out, I would go Cade Otton because I really think that Baker Mayfield is going to find a way to be successful no matter what, especially against this Lions defense whose secondary is looking so depleted. Like, I expect Baker Mayfield to go off and throw for a bunch of touchdowns against the Lions no matter what. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game, and so if Egbuka's out, there is nobody else that's going to get the ball than Cade Otton because Mike Evans will get his, but he only has a certain threshold of targets that he can get. Cade Otton will be that consistent over the middle type of receiver, the safety blanket for Baker Mayfield all week at a bunch of first downs. So if Egbuka's out, I'm firmly Cade Otton over Travis Kelce. It gets a little dicey when Egbuka's in because he's going to obviously dominate, but maybe then go Travis Kelce. But I've got some confidence in Cade Otton this week.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Lions do have a lot of strength when it comes to their safeties and
jag.
linebackers. So I will say that it definitely is close, but I see what both sides are.
No, I
I
think
would just
Brian Branch is out though, right?
he
got
is. But
suspended a
they
week.
still do have Kirby Joseph and they got Jack
I
Campbell
thought
in
he's
the middle.
injured though.
I think they said he's playing.
He's playing. Okay.
But if they're both out, then that changes things. I just saw that the Jaguars went offsides on that.
Yeah, that
fourth
was so
down, too.
bad.
Yeah, that's what I've been
It's
looking at.
crazy.
Dude.
Fourth and 5.
But
Yeah,
let's
exactly.
let's
Fourth and
talk
5.
about some of the Sunday slate games today. Let's start off with the Bears. Bears Saints. We have
Trap game.
the Spencer Rattler versus Caleb Williams revenge game.
oh
For all who don't know,
my
Spencer
god.
Rattler was replaced by Caleb Williams after he went 5-0, and Caleb Williams came in when they were down 28-7 against Texas, and he won the game, and that's really what put his career on track. Obviously, he went to USC after, and Rattler went his own way to South Carolina, and now they are both both successful players in the NFL. Now,
wow, that wasn't a first down, but Terrence Ferguson, welcome to the NFL. Oh my god.
Yeah,
Man,
Joe had to
repeat
interrupt
that.
after a 40-yard
Disrespect
Terrence
it.
Ferguson
Sorry.
touchdown.
yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, hey, who started Terrence Ferguson this week? I mean, but either way, let's talk about the Saints Bears.
Let's do it.
Yes.
I think this is going to be a more interesting game than people think. I think that the Saints, they're not a great team by any means, but the Bears defense has looked very shaky at points this year. The weather could play a factor. I think this is going to be a pretty close game, but I'm hoping it's definitely a high scoring game. I think that you could I think I have Spencer Rattler and Caleb Williams both in my top 12 quarterbacks this week. But my question to you guys is, would you consider starting any Bears player in terms of receivers, running backs, tight ends that aren't Rome or Swift?
No, I don't have any. Well, DJ Moore's hurt.
But
And
they said he's playing.
Yeah, he's supposed to play, but I'm a little concerned about his injury. And then you have Zacchaeus, who had like 6 targets last week. He dropped a big one that would have been a ton of yards. He had like 2 catches, wasn't very involved. And Kmet gets his every once in a while, but really not a whole lot of like dynamic plays going on in the Bears offense or at least plays and players that you can be really comfortable starting, I think, that are not Odunze and Swift for what we've seen this season. Maybe,
Yeah,
you can start Caleb too,
Alright.
but that's about it.
Excuse me, Gabriel.
No, it's totally fine.
I felt like we started seeing the Colson Loveland breakout a little bit last week where he started getting some targets down the field a little bit more. Like, I mean, I agree with you. I don't think it's enough to like put him in your lineup, but this game should be. I was interested at the over-under because it was only around like 45.5 when I saw it. And I, off the top of my head, thought that this will probably go over. But how's the weather looking right now in Chicago?
It's going to be a little bit windy, a little bit rainy. So I
Okay.
think there's definitely some question marks there. Now, we do have a question that just came in from Instagram. And the question is Jalen Coker or AJ Barner at flex this week. What do you guys think?
Oh, wow, that's actually a good, interesting question.
I'm going to go with
That's
Coker.
big.
I think Coker, I wanted to start him last week. I think he's going to step in and be the number 2 receiver right away on this Panthers team. I just can't trust AJ Barner. I mean, I know he's had a couple good weeks. Maybe it's a high scoring game in Houston, but I think Coker might be the better play.
I think I can get behind that. I mean, AJ Barner is like, we've seen these couple weeks in a row, but it doesn't seem like that's going to stick at all with him this year, especially with Elijah Arroyo still there in that tight end room. And it does seem like Jalen Coker has like earned a role and earned at least like an opportunity to show what he built for him in a name this offseason as a slot wide receiver in Carolina. So I know Kahan's excited to see him out there.
I'm excited to see him too, because there's like a really big hole in this Panthers offense that needs to be filled. And I don't know how good Coker is, but he, like you said, has the chance to actually do that. And it's just kind of fun to see someone like New get involved in an offense that can drastically improve. So I'm going to go Coker as well, because I just hate relying on guys that are so touchdown reliant, and that is all that Barner is. And I think Coker can have some actual volume that will score you points that are not touchdowns.
Okay, great. And we have a couple more questions. We got one from Slapdog. It just came in. Zach Ertz against the Cowboys or DJ Moore against the Saints? I'm going to go with Ertz here just because Commanders don't have any receivers. So you have Debo out. You have Terry McLaurin out. Zach Ertz going to be the most reliable target, and we all know how poor this Cowboys defense is. And DJ Moore just doesn't have any type of guaranteed volume, so I'm going to go with Ertz here.
He's got to be. I like Ertz here too, especially like we said about the weather, the injury for DJ Moore. Let's run Ertz. Let's get that PPR value, especially in tight end premium. Like if you're getting 1.5 points for every single Ertz catch he has this week, and he has 6, 7, or 8 catches, he might score a lot of fantasy points, right? I mean, isn't he gonna have about that many catches? Don't you think?
I mean, yeah, probably. But Ertz is interesting to look at, because 2 weeks ago he put up a donut, like 0 points, and he lost me a league that I was in that I was down by 9 going into the last game. And I was like, oh, I have a chance, and he scored 0. But then I stuck to it. I stuck to Ertz last week, and he had a great game. He scored a touchdown. I think Ertz has some legitimate value this week. I would go with Ertz as well.
Absolutely. I think we're all on board there. And then we got another question from Instagram coming in. DeAndre Swift or Chris Olave? Honestly, I like both these options a lot. I think I'm going to lean Swift just because right now he's getting that volume, and especially he's getting it on the receiving side right now. Like the Bears just don't have any other running backs. I know we have Chris Olave as one of our starts of the week right now, and I think both are strong starts, but with how little Olave is getting into the end zone, I just think you have to go Swift and hope he brings you 13 to 14 carries and then 4 catches. And with 18 opportunities, I think you can do a lot. You can do a lot with that, especially against the Saints defense.
I'm going to lean towards Swift as well, but I think if the weather was better, it actually really changes my opinion on this. I do want to see how Rattler does. I think he's actually pretty talented, but how he does in a game that's pretty like sloppy and gross. And I think that's exactly what this game is going to be. Like this weather, I think, is a real factor. But Olave, I will mention quickly, like a caveat this week on our TikTok. Olave is the guy that you should be trading for. Like he's had top 3 receiving volume out of all receivers in the NFL this season. And he continues to put up consistent points that are, I feel like, going under the radar because they're not like those 25, 30 point performances that you're seeing. And obviously he's not going to score a ton of touchdowns in this offense, but when the touchdowns do come, because he's not going to have 0 touchdowns for the season, he's going to have some big weeks. So if you're sitting around kind of looking for a receiver that you need, or maybe you have some extra running back depth, like trade for Chris Olave now, especially if he has a poor week this week where he's going to have some value.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is, a tale of 2 good starters. You're kind of deciding between the 2. I just think you go with Swift because there's a little bit more volume guaranteed there. But let's talk a little bit more about some of these Sunday games. Let's talk about the Jets and the Panthers. Now, obviously the big storyline, I don't even think there's anything to talk about with the Jets because the Jets are god-awful. You're probably going to start Breece Hall this week. He's going to get a ton of touches. Panthers aren't very good. But let's talk about the Panthers side of the ball. And let's talk about the running back situation. So Rico Dowdle, 2 weeks in a row, 30-plus fantasy points, 200 total scrimmage yards in back-to-back games. And now you have Chuba Hubbard healthy in a very good matchup against the Jets here. So obviously there's been a lot of talk on the media of who's getting the touches, who's going to be the starting running back. I think personally, at least for this week, I just can't see any reason that Chuba Hubbard's going to outsnap Dowdle. He's coming off a calf injury, which are very notoriously known for being slow healing and also have a higher rate of re-injury. So I just can't see in a game where the Panthers are likely going to win that you don't go with the more explosive back who's put the team on his back the last 2 weeks. And there's not really a reason to go out there and feed Chuba Hubbard and risk the re-injury. It's a long season. You could give him a couple touches and let him really get back to full strength in about 2 weeks.
You explained it exactly right. And I think it has a lot to do with Bryce Young, honestly, where the Panthers kind of view how they view their team, where they understand that, sure, Bryce Young might be the guy, but the way that they're going to win games is through playing balanced, smart football and run the ball. And there's no reason to go away from how you've been winning games recently and the style of play that you've been approaching each game. And that's with Rico Dowdle. I mean, that's on his back. And if you continue to at least give him that chance, you might keep winning games. Like, you might find yourself in playoff contention come the end of the NFL season, which is exactly what the Panthers are looking to do. There's absolutely no reason to change things up and lose the hot hand and take Rico Dowdle off the field and say, hey, we want to go back to playing how we thought we should play in week 1 with this guy who helped us lose every single game. Like, you can't think like that. There's no way. So they're definitely going to be putting Rico Dowdle out there. I'd expect, another game of 17 or 18 plus touches for Rico Dowdle. I mean, against this poor Jets defense right now, which this game might be just kind of low scoring and crappy at the end of the day. So we might not see a crazy day out of Rico Dowdle again, but I'm going to expect, 70 yards on the ground and a few catches coming his way.
I would be careful by saying this Jets defense is poor. Like, their defense
I don't think they've
isn't
been
bad.
playing. I mean, they stopped the Broncos well, but other than that, they've been letting it up.
Yeah, but they have their moments, and I think they get to the quarterback pretty well. But I think there's the way that Charlie described, like how the Panthers are playing with Dowdle is the same way you should look at it for your fantasy team. There should be a sense of like a peace of mind almost where you should start Dowdle this week. And if you get it wrong, I don't think it should hang over your head where if it's the other way, you're like, what are you doing? Like, why would I ever start Hubbard instead of Dowdle? And now, Dowdle's outperforming him. Like, that seems like a no-brainer type of thing. So I think for you fantasy managers out there, like, you should be seeing it like that. Like, Dowdle is the start. If you get it wrong, it's like, oh, well, versus the other way around, you're going to feel pretty sorry for yourself by making the wrong choice.
Yeah, absolutely. And before we even continue this conversation, we got a couple more questions coming in from the Instagram side. So Will Newman would like to know 2 different things. What type of toast at a diner are you ordering? And on top of that, do you like Dobbins or Kenneth Walker at the flex? So I'm going to go with some sourdough toast, and I'm going to take J.K. Dobbins in a much better matchup. I don't think you can trust Kenneth Walker right now.
The toast question is getting me because I'm all in on J.K. Dobbins. Like, I don't want to disregard Walker. I think he's very talented, but his situation is just really funky. And I know Dobbins is going to touch the football, and he's had like 4 or 5 good, consistent weeks and had 1 bad week last week. So I'm going Dobbins as well. I'll probably just like a normal white bread, though, like a very, very casual vanilla type of like really boring toast order.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't even hear your fantasy question. I'm just thinking about toast, bro. Like, maybe like, can I have a bagel or like a pancake on the side, maybe?
Oh man, we're just like
English,
jumping around the
English
question.
muffin,
Like,
bro. I don't know. Maybe some mashed potatoes or something. I like skillets though. Skillets are so good for breakfast. Y'all all about skillets? Everybody in the comments, they like skillets for
You
sure.
got me messed up
That's
just
like
dancing around this
Put
question.
some
You just
sunny
talked about
side
everything
eggs
else
on
that's
top of
not
that.
toast.
On top
You
of
just
that,
literally talk about anything else that's not
Then-
toast here. This is crazy.
bro. I'm just trying to talk about Rashi Rice today. But who was the question that you asked? J.K. Dobbins or who?
Or Kenneth Walker.
Or Kenneth Walker? It's J.K. Dobbins, man. Kenneth Walker cannot go in your lineup ever until his snap share gets above, consistently above 35% snaps. Like, there's just no way I'm putting him in my lineup. He's crazy touchdown dependent this whole year, and he is a good running back, but you have to just like see it how it is. He's not getting the work. He's just not getting the usage, and J.K. Dobbins has a much higher chance, I feel like, of at least he's guaranteed about 50% of the touches in his offense. And so that against, a Giants defense who is, somewhat comparable, I feel like, to the Texans defense. They're probably a little worse than the Texans defense, but they both have pretty good run defenses and solid, really, really solid defensive lines, obviously. I'm just going to lean Dobbins, I guess, but I'm not really excited about either player,
Yeah, Dobbins not an
honestly.
exciting start. That's a good point. He's not like the guy who's going to get you 20 plus. You're just hoping he gets you like 12 to 14 and he finds the end zone. And that's what he's done a lot this season.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think just to close off, on that Panthers game, because I know we got a little sidetracked, but I agree with you guys. Dowdle, I just can't see a way that if you have a running back that's going for back-to-back 200-yard games, and if a lot of people out there are box score watching and they're like, oh, he played bad defenses. But if you actually watch this game, you would see how well he was running. He was breaking tackles. His vision looked incredible. And on top of it, we already knew he was the better receiving back. So he chipped in with a really clutch, like 40-yard receiving touchdown last game as well. So I just can't see a way that they don't, ride the hot hand with him. And maybe that changes in this game. Maybe Chuba breaks off a few big runs, but coming off this injury, I would just be pretty surprised that happened. So I think for now you keep Chuba on the bench and you definitely start Dowdle this week until we see otherwise. Let's keep discussing
what we said.
Yep, let's keep discussing this game. Let's go Browns Dolphins. This is going to be a really disgusting game because you have two really bad teams and you have projected 40-mile-an-hour winds and heavy rain. So are you willing? Obviously, everyone's going to start Quinshon Judkins.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's going to start Devon Achane. But are you willing to start players like Darren Waller? Let's say Jalen Waddle. Let's say Harold Fannin. Are you willing to start all or any of those players?
Yes, I'm willing to start both Jalen Waddle and Harold Fannin. The reasons being because they are the two assets in both offenses where I think they can get involved closer to the line of scrimmage. So obviously we already talked about Quinshon. He's going to have a million touches. It's a rainy game. The wind looks to be like 50 to 60 miles an hour. I think I saw that might have been an exaggeration, obviously, but it's going to be hella windy there, I suppose. So Quinshon's going to go off, get a ton of touches. Well, he might not go off, but he's going to get a ton of touches, certainly. And with this bad Miami Dolphins defense, it looks like it's going to be pretty good. Now, the two players, Jalen Waddle and Harold Fannin Jr., I think have a chance to be involved this week because of this bad weather. If they can be involved closer to the line of scrimmage, whatever passes are going to be happening, I don't think it's going down the field. I don't think it's going down the field to Jerry Jeudy. David Njoku's out already. Cedric Tillman's more of a downfield wide receiver. Harold Fannin Jr. can get the ball out of the backfield even. He can get the ball in the flat. He can get the ball pretty much anywhere on the field. He is utilized as that athletic player in this offense in the passing game closer to the line of scrimmage. Jalen Waddle, on the other hand, on the other side of the ball, is also similarly involved in terms of he's just the dominating wide receiver one on this offense. I think they have to figure out a way to manufacture touches for him in order to even keep themselves in this game whatsoever, because I would imagine that this Browns defense is going to be keyed on Devon Achane. He has had an incredible first 6 weeks. He looks explosive. He looks like one of the best athletes in the NFL right now, honestly. And I think that the Browns are attuned to that. I think they will be looking at that. And I think that that's going to make a difference in Devon Achane's output this game and also help Jalen Waddle get the ball.
I think that was well put. I don't have too much to add. I was going to say yes to that question as well with Harold Fannin and Waddle. Waddle, you can't sit no matter what because of his production on this offense. The last few weeks, he's been at like the wide receiver 7 since Hill's been out. He's been excellent. And then Fannin, I like what Charlie was saying too. So I'm not going to add too much onto those things. But would you rather start Harold Fannin or Zach Ertz this week?
I'll take Ertz.
Ertz, yeah. I think at this point.
You just don't know how these teams are going to move the ball. Like you don't see this wind and that rain until you're actually in the game. And it's like, wow, you might not be able to throw the ball. And the Browns are a tough defense already. And same with Dolphins aren't a tough defense. But again, in these games, defense will always shine.
Browns are a bad offense.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's going to be a really gross game like we all alluded to. Let's talk about a few more of these games. Giants are visiting the Broncos. The Giants are a more entertaining team than a lot of us thought. You have Jackson Dart, Cam Scatterbo. So the main question in this game is, are you willing to start Jackson Dart against this tough Broncos defense, because with his rushing upside, you have to consider starting him every single week, even with the lack of receivers that they currently have.
Charlie, I want to hear what you have to say first, because you know this Broncos team a lot better than I do.
Well, I'm super excited for this game. I think that this is going to be a huge Courtland Sutton game. I think that that's what we can look towards in this game. We might be able to see some RJ Harvey breakout, but the way that I'm viewing this Broncos game is I really think that they are going to be in a place where they can dominate. We've got the whole Super Bowl 50 team is coming back to honor Demaryius Thomas getting into the Ring of Honor this week, the late Demaryius Thomas. And I think that there's going to be a lot of motivation in there, especially for Bo Nix being around the great Peyton Manning. I think the vibes are going to be really good. And I think that this Giants team has some sort of an expectation that they can play good football with Jackson Dart. I don't think I've seen that yet. I think that he's been playing good fantasy football, but I'm a little worried at how he can get the ball downfield. And I think that with the how long Jackson Dart specifically holds the ball so far, I think it's going to be a rude awakening for him this week in the NFL. Welcome to Nick Bonito and Jonathan Cooper's world, Jackson Dart. It's time to get sacked.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say this, before we even continue, we do have a couple questions coming up from the Instagram side, so let's rattle off them real quick. Kamara or Scatabo? I'm going to go with Cam Scatabo here.
Ooh, I'm going Kamara.
I like Scadabo's touchdown upside more than Kamara. Give me Scatabo.
And you have Scatabo, who's catching 5 passes a game right now. So even without the touchdowns, I feel a little bit more confident with that volume. And with the second question here, we have Tet, Bourne, or Boutte.
Bourne.
This is tough also. I might have to go with Kendrick Bourne. I mean, he's looked great. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. Tet had a really good week last week, like we all predicted, but that did come a lot from the touchdown side. And you have Tet potentially getting shadowed by Sauce Gardner, which is going to be a tougher matchup. So I would go with Kendrick Bourne here, even if it's not the big name.
I think I would still go Tataroa. I'm pretty confident in his ability to get some touches in this offense, consistently targets. I mean, he's always getting his targets. And I think he's smooth enough of a wide receiver that I'm excited to see this matchup against Sauce. I think he's still going to get his. And I'm just not super, super confident in Kendrick Bourne, especially with Juwan getting a little bit more healthier and George Kittle coming back.
Dude, Juwan Jennings has like 6 cracked ribs and a destroyed shoulder. I can't believe he's even playing football, let alone like starting in the game. I like Bourne a lot. He was one of my starts of the week on our TikTok because he's had 250 yards combined in the last 2 games, and he's been a target machine as Devontae Adams for his 3rd touchdown. That was so gross. But
bro,
I like
I'm fucking
Bourne.
playing against him. Like this dude, they just get down to the 1-yard line and just throw it to Adams every single time.
But it's been all year too. He's had so many red zone targets, and
did he just score again? Oh my god,
he's so exciting. Anyways,
that's so sick. Yeah, wide receiver 3 this week on my board, baby. That's what we do.
I'm starting him in a league where I'm 2-4, and I have I've had CD hurt and Lamar hurt, so I'm really hoping for my team to get back and like win games. So Adams playing good this week is huge.
They call that.
But yeah, give me Bourne because I think they're still pretty injured. No Ricky Pearsall, and I like what he does in the middle of the field. And he had some deep catches last week. We only caught like 4 balls, but he had 147 yards. So I like Bourne's threat on his offense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can I jump back to the Browns game just real quick? Because I was trying to find Quinshon Judkins lines. He's minus 165 right now to have over 20 carries. So that's pretty crazy. I might ladder his carries anyway.
I mean, I think everyone's starting Judkins this week. I think that
I just think it's going to be a gross game. I mean, they're just not going to throw the ball. They're just going to hand the ball off over and over again.
I mean, when you got Dylan Gabriel back there too, I mean, you can't run too complicated of an offense with the lack of receivers that they also have. So I think it's going to be.
Let's jump back to the Broncos game though too, because I want to hear your guys' thoughts on Courtland Sutton, because I think he has the opportunity to score like 2 touchdowns this week and be a really up there fantasy wide receiver.
Well, if you're watching Fantasy Brains on TikTok, you would know that I said that because Courtland Sutton was also one of my wide receiver starts this week, because for that exact reason. Cortland Sutton is actually a very good matchup wide receiver. And that's something for fantasy managers to be, I think, more excited about, because you have a sort of confidence on when to start him week to week and you're not really guessing. It's almost like he does well against the matchups that he should. And sometimes he's a little bit worse against more difficult matchups. And in this case, against a depleted Giants secondary, where I see the Broncos throwing the ball a decent bit, Cortland Sutton should have a very nice game where he gets involved. My only concern is that if maybe it's not even a concern. I think game script could play a factor, but I think it'd be pretty minimal because the Broncos aren't really like a big blowout team. But yeah, I talked about Sutton's ability to catch passes and be involved when the Broncos offense looks better. And I think this is a week against the Giants where like he could absolutely do that.
Yeah, I mean, I think Sutton's been great every week. I don't see any reason why you shouldn't get him in the lineup. He has pretty high touchdown upside as being the number one in this offense. So I think you just continue riding the hot hand with him, and there's no reason he should be on your bench right now.
Ooh, and then one thing I will say too is the man coverage. The Giants play the second most man coverage out of any defense in the NFL, and Cortland Sutton by far thrives a lot more on man coverage than he does against the zone. So I think that's also bodes really well for him in this week 7 slate.
Are you guys starting Dart at all? Like, I would not, obviously, but he's been good at fantasy lately. I mean, at least in his first couple starts.
I'm going to start him if I have to.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, if you don't have a pretty decent second option, him rushing for 50 yards a game is like a big deal in every single week. Like, that is a lot of upside that you can get on the ground that not a lot of quarterbacks give you.
Yep. I mean, like we talked about at the beginning also. I mean, with the rushing upside, you always have to consider putting him in the lineup. Let's talk about some other games here. Let's go over to the Titans and the Patriots. The Patriots coming off another really solid win last week. Drake May looks awesome. Stephon Diggs had kind of a down week after exploding versus the Bills. But I think the more important storyline is the Titans. They fire Brian Callahan. So what can we expect out of this Titans offense? Is there any player that you guys are willing to start on this Titans team?
No, but I am interested to see what Tyjae Spears does. I think he's someone that could be a little bit exciting on the Titans offense.
A lot of snaps last week.
A lot of snaps, and it's like
involvement in the passing game.
Similar to what I said to Coker, it's like a new face on a team that's like very bad. Almost gives them this life of like, let's just see, because why not? And that could bode well for Spears because their team is pretty terrible. I also have this thing that is not even related to, like, there is no stat behind this, but this is just something that I feel like happens in the NFL. When a team fires a coach, I feel like their team always pops off the next week. Like, they always find a way to look really good with this brand new head coach. I think it happens a lot more often than not. So I don't know what that'll mean exactly for starting Titans players. I probably wouldn't start a whole lot of them, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Titans like magically have a decent week this week, because it's almost like they're playing for that coach who, I don't know, who isn't there anymore. And I feel like that happens a lot in the NFL.
Yeah, I want to unpack that a little bit, Gabe, because that's an interesting point that you made. First off, Tyjae Spears. The Titans love Tyjae Spears. So the only thing is Brian Callahan leaving might pull back a little bit from Tyjae Spears, especially if the Titans go into this game thinking, okay, we need to just get a run game going for Cam Ward, and that's the kind of approach they have, and that could mean more Tony Pollard, I would say. But this front defensive line for the Patriots is pretty good. And so Tyjae Spears, in my head, should continue to get more involved, as in that's how I would run and operate this offense. And that's how the Titans have thought about it in the past. You know, in the earlier parts of the Brian Callahan era, we saw last year, Tyjae Spears was injured all season, except for at the end when he finally came back, and they immediately got him involved, and he started playing really well. He went off for the last 3 weeks of the season last year. Now, looking at last week, we saw him quickly get acclimated back into it with over 50% snap share and being involved in the passing game already. And so if he can build this relationship with Cam Ward that I think was an expectation in the preseason for them to have, for Tyjae to be this receiving back for him and be an outlet with a weaker receiving core, I think that was planned. And I think that will be continually more executed as the season goes on. So I would like to see Tyjae Spears get more and more involved. The only other guy in this offense that I could see getting more involved this week is Chigoziem Okonkwo. I think that if you're in a pinch at tight end, obviously you could go with him. He could score a touchdown this week. He's going to have, 6 or 7 targets. Sorry, it's around there again, but he's going to have about that many targets, and he might catch them all, and that could be a solid PPR fantasy day for Chig, but you're not going to get like anything crazy out of him, obviously.
Yeah. Another question that does come into the chat right here. We got start to Kayshon Boutte, Tet McMillan, and Wan'Dale Robinson. I'm gonna go with Kayshon, I'm gonna go with Kayshon Boutte. No, I'm gonna go with Wan'Dale and Tet. Just because the Patriots, I think, will be winning this matchup. If they were playing in a tougher matchup, I would consider Boutte because he's looked good at times. But I think you got to go with Wan'Dale and Tet here.
Really?
It's Wan'Dale and Tet for me too. Boutte he's good against the man and bad against the zone. He's playing in a matchup where Titans play a lot of zone defense. It bodes a lot better for Stephon Diggs instead of Boutte. So I have Wan'Dale and Tet in this game. But yeah, not great starts. All some pretty difficult matchups, to be honest.
Geez, I worry about Wan'Dale. I mean, I do not think it should be understated that a somewhat raw rookie quarterback is going up against one of the best defenses in the NFL and currently on pace to break the single season sack record. Like that, I think that's can be pretty debilitating for an offense. We saw what it did to Justin Fields. I mean, I'm sure Jackson Dart is probably better than Justin Fields, but the question is how much right now, and it probably can't be that much, honestly.
Yeah, none of those options are great, to be honest, like we said, but you definitely can't sit Tet. I mean, he's a much better player than either of these two other guys. So I think that's the main point for me. Let's keep talking about some of these games as we're about 20 minutes away from kickoff here. Let's talk about the Chiefs and the Raiders. Rashee Rice is going to be the big storyline here. Chiefs are at home against the Raiders, who are not a very good team. You have Jacoby Myers, who just got ruled out for the Raiders, as well as Brock Bowers. So they're playing with pretty much house money at this point. Like, there's no way that they have any expectation of winning this game. So I don't even think on the Raiders side there's much to look at. But on the Chiefs side, it is going to be pretty interesting to see how the targets are distributed in this game. So what are we expecting for Rice's stat line in the first game?
Dude, I think we need to temper expectations with Rice just a little bit, because I am someone who loves Rashee Rice. Like, I think he's a fantastic player who showed that he was very, very good, both in his rookie season and a little bit when in the first few weeks last year before he got hurt. But I think, guys like Xavier Worthy and Hollywood Brown have, I think, established themselves in this offense more so than what we saw last season at the beginning of the year, where it felt like everything ran through Rice. Rice is the best option in this offense, but I don't think they're going to be as reliant on him as they were at the beginning of last season. With that being said, if it's anywhere near that type of production, then Rashee Rice is like a top 10 fantasy wide receiver who you can expect like between 17 and 20, like 4 points out of him right away because of his usage. And he's going to get, if he has like anywhere from like a 20 to 25% target share and is really getting involved in a high powered passing offense, Rice is a good player moving forward.
I think the Chiefs were really interesting because of their auxiliary pieces so far this season, where what we saw was Xavier Worthy, Hollywood Brown, Tyquan Thornton, Juju Smith-Schuster. All of those guys were getting involved. I think what's important to realize through that is those auxiliary pieces, I think, will all start going Rashee Rice's way. I really think that they had a plan for this offense, and Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the NFL at executing the plan for his offense. And I think that as soon as Rashee Rice comes back, because it's not like he's coming back from an injury, he is ready for that plan to be right back in place. And they don't need Juju Smith-Schuster to be involved. They don't need Tyquan Thornton to be as involved. They can relinquish those responsibilities, give them back to Hollywood Brown, let him go down the field and be a field stretcher, and let Rashee Rice work in the middle and short game, because the reason why you give him the ball over Hollywood Brown is they're both comparable route runners, honestly. They're both like really good route runners, but you get the ball in Rashee's hands and he's going to break the first two tackles that they get when they give him the ball down there. So when you give him the ball on a 7-yard slant routes instead of Hollywood Brown, you're getting those first downs. You're getting 15 yards out of it instead of 10 yards. You're getting more yards after the catch out of that. And so that's why I think that they can immediately get him more involved back into what he wants to do, and then bring Hollywood Brown's role into a more of a down the field kind of role.
I will say too quickly, I'm going to go back my word a little bit because I am realizing the Raiders, how good this matchup is for them. The Raiders play the most zone defense out of any team in the NFL. And that's where Rashee Rice is by far one of the best players in the league. Like he, against zone defenses, since his rookie season, he's like the wide receiver 3 overall because the Chiefs just eat up the zone. So that could be a really big factor today, where Rice is going to have a lot of open space in the middle of the field, where he's actually a pretty good start. Maybe not even temper expectations. Maybe just like a go like right away. Like Rashee Rice might.
We were talking about Kelsey. How many targets is Kelsey getting, Gabe?
Like 4 to 6.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think let's keep talking about this, but we got a question that just came in. Kittle, Goddard, and Kraft pick 2. I'm going to go with Kittle and Kraft.
Oh, Goddard's been an animal lately, though. I'm not starting Kittle just yet. Give him one more week, I think. This is 3 great options. Like, you have 3 really, really good options, and I think that the Eagles are going to have to show some passing substance this week because they haven't yet. So I would go Goddard and Kraft, especially if Josh Jacobs is not playing, which I don't know if we gotten word on yet or not.
We don't have a word yet.
I did just get an alert that Chuba Hubbard is lined up with the starters during warmups right now. So that is a development. Does that make you change your decisions at all? I'm still rolling Dowdle.
Nope.
Nope.
Yeah.
Zero change. If you're sitting Kittle, I think that's crazy. I mean, this guy had 12 points on the first drive of the season, hasn't played since. If he says he's fully healthy, he's fully healthy.
Okay.
He's known for that in his career where he doesn't come back until he is. There's just no reason to sit him over guys like Goddard or Kraft in my eyes.
Honestly, I kind of wanted to start Kittle and Goddard. I guess we're all having different opinions. I think Kraft is a good option, but I just don't love like the dynamics of this Green Bay Packers offense to really be like, oh my gosh, Kraft is like totally the guy. He's gonna just destroy the Cardinals. Like, I just have my question marks on him, and I like Goddard's touchdown upside week to week. I'm gonna start Kittle and Goddard this week.
I think that's very fair. I think that all 3 of these guys are
sorry,
solid
Chris.
options.
You got one of each.
I think these are all very solid options. I would not sit Kittle. I'll say that. But these are all definitely solid options.
Can you go? I want to go through this Chiefs offense one more time, and can you provide me the target share that you think throughout the whole wide receiver core through Tyquan, Juju, Travis Kelce? I mean, everybody.
I mean, I'll say this. I don't know if any of these guys are great. Like outside of Worthy and Rashee. I think what you said about Rashee is a pretty solid assessment. He's going to be the guy down short yardage. They're going to get him the ball in screen situations. I think him and Kelce have that role a lot. I think now with Rashee Rice back, you have a really good opportunity to let Worthy be more of the primary guy on those deep routes. Where Worthy, he also hasn't played much this season. He got out on the first play of week 1, missed a couple weeks. He's been kind of fighting back from injury. So I would say that now we start to see what this Chiefs really look like in terms of their strengths. Now you get to see Worthy play more as a deep intermediate route runner, which I think is a strength of his. And then you have Rice in the short game, which I think is a strength of his. So I don't necessarily know what it's going to look like week 1. I would say Rice ends up with probably like a 23% target share. You have Kelce and you have both Kelce and Worthy, I think probably around like a 17 to 18 this week. And I think all of them could be productive again against this Raiders team that isn't very good. And I could see the Chiefs going out and really trying to show their true offense now with Bryce back on the field.
I think that's well put. I want to talk about something quickly because I've been watching this game. This Jaguars team is terrible. Trevor Lawrence has thrown the ball 48 times and has completed 23 passes, not even a 50% completion, where Travis Hunter has 14 targets. BTJ just went out with what looked like a dislocated shoulder. This is an absolute shit show, and I've been sitting here quiet, like not talking about this game at all. This is like disgusting to watch. Like, I just watched the Jaguars have got like maybe 15 red zone chances and didn't score a single one of them. The
Rams defense is good.
This is so hard to watch. If you're like a Jaguars fan at home watching this game, like, I am so sorry because I have no idea like what my eyes are even looking at right now because this game is just so disgusting.
Yeah, it's not a pretty game whatsoever, but we only
Well,
got a
it's
couple
over
minutes
now.
here. Let's talk about some of these other matchups. Let's just head right to the Eagles Vikings game. This is going to be a good game. Two good teams that both have had their struggles this year with different things. So my question is, with Wentz starting again this week at quarterback, are you guys, obviously you're starting Justin Jefferson, but are you guys willing to start players like Jordan Mason, Jordan Addison, and TJ Hawkinson? Obviously, that is dependent on who the other options are, but how do you generally feel about these players, especially with, I will say, the Eagles have a couple injuries on their secondary with guys like DeJean and Mitchell being banged up this week?
I like Jordan Mason. I like that he gets a very good amount of touches week to week with Aaron Jones being injured. And the Eagles' rushing defense actually hasn't been very good this season like it was last year. Jordan Addison's also had 2 good weeks in a row. They both come in garbage time in the fourth quarter, but his big playability is like gives you a spot start in week to week. So if you're kind of in between some guys, I think Addison might give you the biggest upside out of some like low end flex plays. But I wouldn't say I'm like excited per se to start any of these guys this week if your name is not like Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, the thing is, it's tough with Wentz at the helm, but I do think this has the potential of being a higher scoring game. You know, you have two teams, both Eagles are coming off 2 losses. Vikings are coming off a bye week where they also have a lot of question marks and a lot of games that they should have won or maybe should have lost at this point. So I think with these teams, you have to get Addison involved. He has played really well this season.
He's so
He missed
good.
the first 3 games of the season, and I saw personally, while Justin Jefferson was out in that early portion of training camp, Jordan Addison was the guy that looked really good. And I just don't see a reason why, especially coming off 2 really good seasons, why they're not getting him the ball more. I know there were the issues last week in London with him not, showing up to the walkthrough on time. And so I think this is the week where you have, I'm not going to say it's a must win, but every single team in the NFC North at this point is above 500. So when you're considerably the 3rd or the 4th best team in the division, which I believe the Vikings are, this is a game where you need to unleash your best players. And I think Jordan Addison's one of their best players on the offensive side.
I would definitely agree with that, Kahan. I think that Jordan Addison him and Devonta Smith are both really good wide receivers that are just underutilized in their offenses because of the access to other assets. Like because of the fact that Justin Jefferson is there means that Jordan Addison can't be a wide receiver 1, even though Jordan Addison is really freaking good at football and is a really good wide receiver. I mean, he is a quarterback friendly wide receiver. He's great in the red zone. He has great hands. There is just no doubt in my mind that he isn't a really, really good wide receiver. And I wish he was better at fantasy football, and maybe we'll see that again sometime. But for now, it's going to be tough for him to get a lot of fantasy points, at least in a given week.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is going to be a very interesting game. But let's talk about, before we end off, Falcons 49ers. What are your guys' thoughts on the Atlanta Falcons coming off a huge game? Obviously, we know how good Bijan Robinson is. Drake London had a really good game against that weak Bills defense. But I do have this thing with the Falcons that they are a very, very good team at home. But when it comes to being on the road, I have a couple more question marks about them. And so my question to you, Gabe, is that, are you starting Michael Penix Jr. this week?
No, I'm not starting Michael Penix Jr. this week. I think how do I describe this? Like, Penix's value comes with the Falcons being able to drive down the field and get touchdowns. And I like Bijan on the ground a lot more than I like Penix's ability to really air it out. And the 49ers secondary is relatively strong, and they definitely play a lot of close games. I don't expect the Falcons to come in and score like they did against the Bills last week. So I would sit Penix, but dude, I mean, we just have to talk about London and Bijan's production that they had last week, because Bijan's been good all season, but London almost came out of nowhere and dropped like the wide receiver 1 performance last
Out
week.
of nowhere.
Dude, London is a phenomenal player, Troy. Don't get me wrong, but you can't argue that he's had a good season so far this year. Like, he's been struggling a ton, and then he comes in and gets like 150 yards in the air. I feel like that is almost out of nowhere. It's like the performance we've been waiting to see for London, I think, for the majority of the season.
Exactly who he is, though. I mean, he's the wide receiver 8 overall right now, and he's only scored 2 touchdowns. So, like, I'm honestly not too worried about him at all. I mean, I don't know where your fear is coming from with him, or out of nowhere. Like, yeah, it's been a work in progress, but he's also had 15, 8, 10, and 16 targets in 4 of 5 games that he's played.
Don't misconstrue the idea. Like, I'm not afraid of starting London. This guy you have to start every single week. What he did, scoring 34 points last week and 28 points against the Commanders, was very different than the 11 and 7 points that he scored in week 2 and 3 against Minnesota.
But that's what we
know
we can get out of Drake London. Like, I'm confident that we can get a lot of those weeks in the season. You're not going to get all those weeks, because he's a more inconsistent wide receiver. He's a big target, but he's definitely, like, when he goes off, and then he'll have some games where he only scores 10 points. And that's just kind of how you have to expect him to be. But he's still going to finish in that wide receiver, 4 through 10 at the end of the year. And that's exactly where you want him to be. I mean, that's where we drafted him.
Yeah, I mean, London's been very on and off, so I think you're obviously always going to start him every single week. But he did look great, so we'll see how he does this week on the road, and it's all going to be a lot about Michael Penix as well. Got a couple more questions before we end it off here. Caleb or May, and why? I'm going to go with Drake May. It looks like the weather in that game could be a little bit better, and May just has. Both quarterbacks have looked good in fantasy, but I just trust Drake May. I think he's going to have a couple touchdowns, maybe 2 in the air and 1 on the ground.
Drake May is an elite fantasy player at quarterback at this point. He should be in your lineup every single week because that's just how he's playing the game right now.
Yeah, May is like the QB5 overall out of all quarterbacks. His rushing upside and honestly his ability to throw for touchdowns has just made him a phenomenal start week to week. It's got to be May over Caleb this week. Again, against a good matchup against the Titans too.
And I mean, just to get into this a little bit more specifically, because you're asking why, I mean, I think it does come down to the fact that we all know why, and it's the combination of his rushing upside consistently week in and week out, the fact that he can get in for a rushing touchdown as well as a couple passing touchdowns, and it's matchup reasons why this defense, the Titans defense, is not very good. And so when you combine those 2 reasons with a top tier quarterback already who seems to be getting more comfortable in this offense, more comfortable throwing the ball to a somewhat lackluster receiver core that he's making the best of right now, which we saw partially last year, but now he's really expanded in that. I think you can have utter confidence in him week in and week out, and then extraordinary confidence when you get a matchup like this.
Yep. I mean, both quarterbacks are good plays. So I think that you're just looking at both have solid matchups. I think the weather is going to be a little bit better in the Titans game. So definitely roll with May. And then our just last question here before we end it off, Fannin, or does he risk it with Ibuka? I am going to go with Fannin because I just don't know if Ibuka might be active. I honestly don't think he will. You have the bye week next week. I don't see a reason why you play him this week and risk his health with a hamstring injury.
It's a big game
as well.
It's a big game, but they're 5-1. I think. Are you going to risk the health of him for the rest of the season?
It's about your matchup. It's about if you're a huge dog, then you can go Ibuka. But otherwise, if it's a close game, you got to go Fannin. Yeah,
I agree.
To make sure.
I agree. Even if it's a really rainy game, I think you just got to go with Fannin, knowing that he is going to probably have a higher target share just because the health is there. But that'll clap off this episode of the Fantasy Friends Podcast. Hopefully everybody enjoyed this one. Good luck to all of you in your fantasy matchups, and we'll be here next week. Same thing, noon Eastern, to talk about week 8 in the NFL season. So make sure to check out our live stream next week, along with all the content on the Leather Brains Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok all week. Thank you everybody for listening, and we'll see you next time.
If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you tune into our new releases every week on your favorite podcast app. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and check out leatherbrains.com for all of your fantasy football needs. And remember, Brainiacs, A championship should be more than a fantasy.